Tommy Rex, and you're listening to today's Boondoggle.
This is Mark Metcalf, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle with Bailey on Domain Cleveland Radio.
You are listening to today's Boondoggle with Bailey on Domain Cleveland Radio. Yes, Kato Kalin listens to this all the time.
Welcome to today's Boondoggle. Now, here's your host. Incarceration, America's rock, metal, and tattoo festival returns this summer with Limp Bizkit, Disturbed, Bad Omens, plus Gojira, Papa Roach, A Day to Remember, Motionless in White, Ice Nine Kills, Cypress Hill, The Used, and so many more. Incarceration at the Ohio State Reformatory, July 17th to 19th. Passes on sale now at incarceration.com.
What's going on, everybody? It's Bill Bailey with today's Boondoggle, and just chatting it up here with Austin from the band Bastion Rose. What's going on, man?
Dude, great to be here. Thanks very much for having me.
Yeah, man. I was looking forward to this conversation, especially with the times we're living in. But usually when I have people on for the first time, I like to get a quick background. So do you remember originally what you wanted to be when you grew up?
Oh, man. What I originally wanted to be when I grew up. I definitely had singer towards the top of the list when I was very, very young. I don't know if it was the very first one, but just singing in the car and, learning words to songs was super satisfying. So I think I was like, I don't know, singer maybe. I think I went through some other phases like actor, archaeologist. Always thought it would have been cool to like discover Atlantis, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Nice. And then you were saying singing in the car and listening to the words of music and stuff. What do you recall? Like, what were some of the earliest influences you would hear around the house?
Yeah. So actually, that's kind of an interesting question because I grew up primarily with my dad. My parents were separated, and so the music was different just between homes. My dad was big time classic rock. Some of his favorite bands were like Leonard Skinner and Bob Seger, and we listened to a lot of like Santana and Eddie Money and the Eagles, and I liked all of that stuff. But then at my mom's, it was like a lot more popular music of the time in like the 90s. So it was like some pop music, like I listened to like Madonna and like Ace of Base and things that were kind of on the radio at the time. But I just liked it all. I still do. It's like I'm a big rock guy now, rock and metal, but I love classical music. I like pop music. I'm not particularly like genre bound, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I gotcha. I mean, see the shuffle on my Apple Music, it'd be like, what?
Yeah, same.
Like schizophrenia or something,
Yeah, same.
But then when was it that like you started kind of choosing your own music, and who were those influences?
Yeah, probably the most important thing that happened to me when I was a kid with regard to that question is I remember being in the truck with my dad and hearing on our local, Indianapolis. I'm from Bloomington, Indiana, and our Indianapolis station, Q95, played Iron Man, Black Sabbath. It was late at night, and I was about 9 years old, and just that whole thing just took me for a ride. It just changed everything. It's the first time that I ever heard anything that made me feel the way that it made me feel, and I was immediately attracted to it. So, Black Sabbath became kind of the exigence of my entire musical development. It's like what I thought to play first when I later picked up a guitar for the first time, which had been a couple years after that, which I was 10 or 11 when I started playing guitar for the first time. And, Iron Man was like the first thing I wanted to learn how to play because, that's the riff that showed me that sound that I liked so much.
Nice.
So yeah.
So then when you picked up the guitar a couple of years later and started learning, Iron Man and playing, when did you get together like with like-minded people and form your first band?
Yeah, so that must have been probably only 3 years later. I actually did take lessons with a guy who was a music student at Indiana University. He was like studying for his doctorate in guitar, and I took 3 years of guitar from him. He taught me my scales and about scale degrees and music theory, and we'd also just learn riffs. Like I'd bring in I want to learn this song or whatever, and he would help me to learn those pieces. But then I once I felt like I had enough to make my own riffs and jam with other people, that's what I really wanted to do. And so I think I was probably in about 6th or 7th grade, and got a few other guys together that one guy had a drum set and another one of my buddies had a guitar. And actually that buddy we still play together. He's been in like every band that I've ever been in. His name is Austin Mudd, and he's in Bastion Rose too. And we've been playing together since we were 12 or 13 years old.
Nice.
And it was just like a feeling like no other, to have everything be loud and tight. And and I think one of the first songs that we ever got the arrangement down to where we could play it together was TNT by AC/DC. And just the feeling of being able to play a whole song was just, it's nothing like it.
Awesome. Now, when you guys got together and started playing, practicing together and playing, what was like the music scene like in the area you guys grew up at?
Yeah. I guess there wasn't a music scene really. We came from a really small farm town, and no venues or anything like that. And we, of course, were really young, so we couldn't play in bars or anything like that either. So, but what was popular during that time, because that would have been in the early 2000s, was rock music. Like rock music was very popular in the 2000s. And so we had, and everybody still liked all the classic stuff. It was even seeing kind of like a resurgence during that time. So Led Zeppelin and AC/DC and Sabbath and like all those bands were pretty popular. And you saw everybody wearing those t-shirts, and people kind of knew the songs, even though we were young kids, and it was old by that time. But we also had like Godsmack and Disturbed, and Metallica is still really popular, and Guns N' Roses, and all this like a little bit later, 80s rock and metal, and then into the 2000s, all the ones I just mentioned, like the alt metal or new metal stuff was super popular. Avenged Sevenfold, Black Label Society, all that stuff. And so there was like a lot of really good music that was coming out to kind of absorb, and in that way, it's super exciting. But there wasn't really any way for us to play live other than the occasional like house party. And at the school, we played at the school, like in the auditorium a couple times and things like that.
Nice. Now, when you and Austin got together, since 12 years old, you said you guys have been playing together. Yeah. When was it that it evolved into Bastion Rose?
Yeah. So actually, Bastion Rose is only a couple years old. I guess our first record that we did with David Bottrill, who's the Grammy-winning producer that did Fade to Blue and our record Traces of Gold, that was in 24. So our first EP only came out in 2024, and then our full album came out the following year. So Bastion Rose hasn't really been playing together that long as Bastion Rose. But prior to that, we went by the moniker Blue Rising for 9 years. And it was basically the same, more or less the same lineup, with a couple members switched out. But the thing that kind of stopped Blue Rising was a really bad year that I had, which was 2019, 2020, where my dad passed away suddenly in 2019, and then in December of 2019, and then my mom passed away in March of 2020. And then later that year, I was diagnosed with thyroid cancer. So, and I had my thyroid removed and a bunch of lymph nodes in my neck removed because it was metastatic. It was like traveling. So that just kind of shut all that down. I couldn't sing, lost my ability to even intonate words. I couldn't actually speak. I had to like whisper, and I had to go through physical therapy for my voice and everything. So that all of that, the emotional toll that took and all the soul searching I was doing. Meanwhile, that was COVID. Like that was the beginning of COVID. So venues weren't even open. And bands weren't really touring nearly as much, especially at the beginning. So the whole thing kind of stopped. And then in the meantime, people's lives kind of like moved along. And by the time I was ready to start playing again, and I really wasn't ready to play stages or anything. And I just kind of delved deep back into the guitar and songwriting on my own, kind of just like as a healing process. And the first songs of Bastion Rose are from that time period. So the entire Fade to Blue EP is like, work that I kind of built as a tool for self-reflection and healing. And I sent a demo to David Bottrell and of a song called Coming For You. Because I was thinking it'd be cool to work with a real producer to record, because all of our recordings up to that time had been independent. And he got back to me eventually after a few weeks and said he'd be happy to work together, which just blew my mind. And we've developed a really good working relationship since, and done a couple records together. And now we're just still moving on, man.
Nice. Wow. What a story though, overcoming all that. And I'm sorry for your losses.
Yeah, thank you.
And then to top it all off, during COVID, all that uncertainty, there's just like, that had to be part of your therapy, like you were saying, playing and writing music and kind of like journaling, but making it into a song that others could relate to, I'm sure, during that time period and everything.
Yeah, for sure. And and at the time, and it's taken me a while, but I've come to realize like the truth of this. But at the time, it was tempting to think that, all these bad things happen to me in rapid succession. And like that happens sometimes. Like when they say when it rains, it pours, and it was easy for me to imagine that there was some kind of like cruel and intelligent something that was targeting me. I'm cursed. It's like the universe is pointing at me and it's like, you're getting yours now. And so, but what I came to realize is like, I'm not special. Like we're all destined to have really bad times in life. It was my time. That was like one of my times. Like that year was one of my times to go through some trials and tribulations, but these bad times are kind of coming for all of us. So we just really, the best we can do, I think, is to like try to maintain a positive attitude and take advantage of the good times when you have them. Like if you wake up and you're like basically healthy and your loved ones are basically healthy and everything's like basically normal, then that day is a big blessing. Every single day that's like that is a huge blessing. What I like to say is get while the getting's good.
Yeah. Now, I can, I totally can relate to that too. It's like I'm in recovery, so it's like I deal with that addict mind, and that enemy that I battle is myself half the time, Totally. And I don't know how many times like I would think I'm being targeted, I'm unique, I'm being isolated or whatever. But I literally just got off a Zoom AA before I jumped on for this interview with you, because I need to go to those places to hear other people, to realize that I am not unique and alone. There's other people struggling with that same battle, and I'm still trying to make it like an exercise to look at the positive every morning. Like you were saying, every day's a blessing. And we are, we are in a battle. And well, before we get to your latest single, which I definitely want to dive into, you mentioned Traces of Gold, and I was listening to that song earlier today too, and I really enjoyed it. What was the inspiration for that song?
Yeah, it's kind of similar to what we were just talking about, I guess. Like it's like life. It's a metaphor, right? And the chorus says, covered in mud, out on the road, I'm out flipping stones for traces of gold. It like uses a lot of imagery of like strife and digging through the mud and just being like covered in mud and bleeding and struggling, looking for those little traces of gold, like that make it all worthwhile. And so that kind of struck me as a metaphor one day. I don't even know where it came from. It just, the phrase popped into my mind and the image came into my mind. And I liked that metaphor because it kind of reflected what I felt like I was going through, or the lesson that I was kind of learning at the time. And I wanted it to be musically like almost have like a dirty Western kind of feel. It's of course like an alternative metal, aggressive rock kind of song, but I wanted it to have that flavor of like Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. It's like, which I don't know if I achieved that, but that was certainly like a musical inspiration for me. It was like, Ecstasy of Gold is the theme from Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. And then a common thread there is like Metallica opens all their shows with Ecstasy of Gold. They have for like, 25 years or whatever. And I think probably subconsciously all of that stuff was kind of baked into my direction on Traces of Gold as a concept. But then it ended up wherever it ended up, because like you start with these ideas and then you just kind of wander and it ends up the way that it ends up. And probably people hear it differently than really differently than I do, and different from each other, because a song can be just like, it's personal. It's like, a song is like unique to the listener, like the listener's bringing meaning to the song by listening to it and having their own whole life leading up to the listening of that song. So once you put it out in the world, it's kind of like everybody's.
Yeah. And like you were just saying too, that's kind of like why I wrote that one down to ask you about too, because I got that same, going back to the thinking, the thinking issues, and just like, looking for the good in all the mud and all the dirt, like you were saying, looking for those traces of gold. And when we, it's like our brains are like algorithms too, and whatever we feed it, we're going to keep getting, and I'm finally realizing that at, 53 years old, and trying to rewrite, the script in my head, and trying not to like get caught up in like the doom scrolling and stuff, and then feeding that, that as well, which, I guess would be a good segue for your latest single, Break the Machine. I started thinking right away as soon as I read that. It's like, oh, okay, so yeah, we got to take out those data centers that are popping up. But you tell me your inspiration for writing that song.
Yeah, I mean, you're kind of right on the money there in terms of the kind of where it's coming from, and I think it applies to a lot of different eras. But like right now, AI is kind of in the crosshairs for sure as something that is like it's an existential threat to a lot of people's ways of life. Not the least of which are artists, like myself, like probably every musician that you've had on your podcast. It's like, AI is being used to create music. And it's music that is derivative, built from stolen material. Like they Suno and these other web-based AI music gen applications essentially just stole all the music ever created and didn't credit it, and built an engine where you can spit out derivative material based on everything it learned about every single other song that's ever been created. And that's like almost certainly illegal. I'm not a legal expert. It certainly seems to be some theft baked into that. But then ethically, music's already a super competitive space just when there's real people involved, because there's not a lot of money to be made, even since streaming and the internet became part of it. Like, that's bad enough as it is. But now if you go to like Bastion Rose Radio on Spotify, you're likely to see not only other bands that Spotify has deemed similar to Bastion Rose, but other bands that are not real bands. So it's like one person on a laptop that just types like, write a song that is in the rock genre that features a guitar and is about, whatever. It's a text-based prompt. It takes 5 minutes. It'll spit out, some pretty legit sounding facsimile to a song that would be recorded in a professional studio, and they can do one in 5 minutes. That means they can release an album every week if they choose to. And Spotify incentivizes the frequency of releases. So it's like, it's like pretty common best practice, I guess. Now I've read about a bunch of this stuff and I'm kind of like getting fired up about it as I think about it. But, Spotify wants you to release music frequently. They reward the people that are releasing music frequently by giving you higher visibility. And so that creates pressure on the artists to produce more, to be seen, to like rise above the competition, because lots and lots of music comes out all the time. But AI, people that write music with AI, which they're not writing music, people that create a song file with music are able to put out a whole album in a week. And if you do it every week, so that's going to incentivize people, like the AI fake music rising to the top. And that person gets royalty money for that, because you still have to use a distributor to put that music on Spotify. Spotify doesn't know the difference. Like, it's just a song, and the streams generate royalty money that goes to the owner of the music. So if you find one that manages to rise to 500,000 or 1 million monthly listeners, they're making a reasonable amount of money per month. They might be making like $1,000 or $2,000 a month from nothing if they're not even artists, and that's actually theft. So
like legit artists, I always hear how horrible, like, the payout on Spotify is for something that you like took months of your heart and soul and poured into. Years. And now to hear that, wow. That's just, everybody kind of wanted to stick it to Spotify in one way or the other, but you're sticking it to the musicians at the same time, the actual real artists. So that's,
so they're doing a couple things. Like, one of the things recently that they've done, and I hope what I'd like to see eventually happen is they just ban all AI generated music. I'd love to see that happen. And I'd also love to see the companies that are building tools that allow people to build songs in that way. I'd like to see that culled somehow too. Because it's not really, especially given the fact that the source material is stolen. Right. Now, even if they get the licenses, like if they were able to work with the labels and like get the licenses for all the music to do that's still pretty ethically gray territory, I think, in terms of like intellectual property and stuff. But what I'd like to see is they just ban it entirely from the platform on Spotify and all the streaming platforms if they can identify it. And that's one of the things that's hard. But what they've already done, that's a good thing here just in the last month or so, is they added verified artist badges to the artist profiles on Spotify. They didn't have that before. Like, so now it's like, if it's a real band that has like tour dates and like, real photographs, and I don't know actually all the things that go into them granting that badge, but Bastion Rose has it, and Metallica has it. Like, real bands have the verified badge, but AI ones don't. So that's a good thing, at least. Hopefully,
it's moving in the right direction for sure. But it still blows my mind. And then so it's basically like the blue check marks, or whatever, but verifying that you guys are legit. Now something else that I also got out of this track, not just focusing on AI and the music, but just like the system in general that we've all been living under, our parents were living under, their parents were, this machine that has been running for so long in the background. Like I don't know, like, I feel like a lot more people are waking up to it, but it's like there's still so much complacency. But I like when artists, because rock music's supposed to be rebellious anyway. It's supposed to say "F the man,"
That's right.
and during that time period where you were doing your own health battle, and we are all dealing with that uncertainty. I seen so many like punk rockers, and musicians kind of like, oh, just go do what they tell you so we can get back out there and play, and it was just like, I was ready to just be like, okay, I guess I'm never seeing a live concert again. Is what it is. I had a good run, but tell me more about like, your inspiration for,
I think that one of the things that's always frustrated me in the same way is just, mass media manipulation and propaganda in general. So when I think of like the apparatus, like who is the man? Because it's like it's very easy to say, the man is like keeping us down, but like who is the man? And it's a lot of different people and a lot of different like processes. It's not as simple as just like it's an easy metaphor to say the man, because it's like, okay, there's like a group of people that are like the elites that are in control of everything. And I think like to some extent, that's like true in different pockets, but it's like more complicated than that. And what I always come back to is the media, which has transformed over time. So like even back when it was like just television, we had propaganda problems when it was just television. And then we have, of course, like partisan networks that are not really giving you the news as much as they're giving you a message that someone paid them to give you. So there's like stakeholders, like invisible stakeholders behind the news. And it does not matter which side, or if it's like independent, like doesn't matter. If it's a big network, that's its owned media. People own that. And that's entertainment, really. Like if it's on your TV, it's entertainment. That is like the category that it falls under. It's not meant to inform you. It's meant to entertain you. No different than a football game. And what is the most entertaining? The metric would be like whatever you're sitting there watching the most. Like what has the best ratings? What has the best market penetration? Well, TV was bad enough as it is, but now with the internet and it's specifically social media. Yeah, social media is the same as TV in terms of being able to penetrate an audience with a message, except it's way, way, way more cost effective, because you can say, I want this particular message to hit this particular type of person when they're online. But TV is just like, it's a billboard. You don't know when people are going to be watching TV. You don't know who's going to be watching the TV. All you can do is like figure out, okay, what kind of people live in this area and what time do they watch TV? And that's not very like cost effective. You're going to like waste a lot of money. But with social media, you're paying for people to, people are going to see it. And you can tell social media advertising, Meta, for example, who to actually show it to. So you can sell anything in this way. You can sell, shoes in the same way, and they do that all the time. I know, you can sell anything, but
it'll pop up on your phone after you talk about it too.
Absolutely, yeah, all of that. And so, like, that's the thing that really frustrates me the most is that's the man. Like that system is the man. It's like it's not really the government necessarily in and of itself. It's the it's like the people
puppet masters
own the media, frankly, and now the social media companies, because they are the media. They're the ones that distribute. Like political figures pay Meta, millions and millions of dollars to show their ads to people who they think will tip over to their side and vote for them, or invest in them for their campaigns or whatever. And so it's all about money, man. Like money is the thing that is kind of like making the machine roll forward. And we're all just sitting here like victim to that. Actually, people don't think they can be manipulated, but like studies have shown how easy it is to manipulate people. Like if you just have enough money, you can manipulate people. And the people at the top know that. They're like, we have the money, we're going to manipulate you. And you're going to think it was your idea.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I don't know how far down the rabbit hole you go. I've been called tinfoil hat quite a bit, but I mean, you look back at like even like when it was like leaflets becoming newspapers to before the TV, before radio, then television. I mean, War of the Worlds on radio, but you know, the Mockingbird, Operation Mockingbird with the CIA that was implanting messages. You know, it had reporters on the payroll that would put their articles out there to sway the populace. They've just been working on their craft and mastering it as technology has come along. And it's like the whole world just gets MK Ultra just staring at their phone half the time, you know?
Yeah. And you brought to mind also, like, even now, like those same tactics that politicians use to manufacture relevance, like manufacture support, record labels are doing that now too, where it's like you create a trend by manufacturing interest. So you just like pay a bunch of people to make content with a particular song, and then it makes it go viral, like seem relevant. And then the song, you know, that helps it see the song become super successful. But it's not like inherently because the song generated any kind of organic virality. It wasn't like the song was so great that everybody found out about it. That's just not how stuff works anymore, unfortunately. There's just too much noise. So they pay, you know.
It's like TikTok has been used big time for that. It's like, okay, here's this new trend, this thing that's trending, but what's the music playing in the background? What's the song that is playing? And then you hear the song, you're like, oh, I kind of like this song. And then, I mean, great advertisement right there. I'm going to go check out the whole song now because everybody's dancing to it on TikTok, you know?
Yeah, and I think that's how TikTok kind of started. Like that was the original kind of like promise of TikTok, was that it was like music centric, I guess. Like music clips was like the big syncing video with music clips.
Yeah.
And then of course, you know, the virality of that platform, there's money to be made there, and there's advertising there now too. And you can pay influencers to use your song in a dance video or in any kind of video to try to just get like push the song out there. And I'm not even saying it's wrong. I don't really know what other, you know, people are just trying to figure out ways to rise above the noise, because it's easier to release music than it's ever been in the history of recorded music. It used to be like really hard to make a record. If you got an opportunity to make a record, it was because like in the 70s, somebody like invited you to come to a studio, or you like saved a bunch of money and you bought some time in a studio. Like Black Sabbath's first record famously was recorded live in one day. They were like on tour, and they got the opportunity to go record their first album. They spent one day in the studio, recorded everything live except the vocal. Ozzy overdubbed the vocal, I believe, and I think Tony might have put a solo in here and there overdubbed after but they like the main body of the song, they just ran them, and that was the record. And they had one day, because that's all the money and all the time that they had. And nothing is done like that, you know, anymore in studios. Everything's multi-tracked. It takes like, you know, it's more expensive than ever to make a record, working with like producers and engineers and like renting the space and all that stuff. But now you can just like, you know, a lot of people make music on their laptop, and then you just use like some self-service distributor like TuneCore or CD Baby or whatever, and put it out on the internet, and people like hundreds of thousands of those per day or something like that. I forget how many it is per day that get released to Spotify, but it's like some shocking number of songs every single day are released to Spotify. So people are naturally trying to figure out ways to like float to the top so people can hear them.
Wow.
What choice do you have?
Yeah. You know? I mean, I've had to play the social media game just to advertise this podcast.
Yeah,
you know,
totally.
it's just like if I, you know, if I want certain interviews, I gotta produce numbers too.
Yep.
It's like,
Yep.
it's on me as well, and it's just like, man, I'm like, teaching an old dog new tricks. I lean on my daughters quite a bit. Like, hey, what's something cool what's a clip I can do to get some follows or whatever. But, going back to the break the machine part.
Yeah.
Especially with everything we were talking about, the short attention spans, TikTok's very short attention spans out there. How do we break the machine? What is your, I mean, just because we can see it doesn't mean it's like They Live, that movie They Live, and that big fight scene to get them just to wear the glasses, how do we get this next generation to break the machine?
I have no idea. I like to fantasize that people would just not use social media anymore at all. Or for example, or people would refuse to engage with mainstream like broadcast media. There's a lot of people out there that still just drink somebody's Kool-Aid. And I like to fantasize that all of the Kool-Aid making factories are just destroyed. Anybody that is like that is actively trying to manipulate, anybody that's actively trying to oppress, just shutting all of that down, building an entirely new world that is not based on being manipulated. And I don't know what the shape of that would be exactly, but something I think it would be good if something fundamental could change, because it doesn't feel as though a lot of things are moving in the right direction.
No, and they seem to be rapidly moving
in
the wrong direction.
Yeah, that's what it feels like.
Yeah, but like, I mean, I sometimes think, a lot of people would lose their shit if we got hit with like an EMP and took out all the technology and electronics. But in the end, it could be a blessing with the right people, to lead the charge. Like, I remember, how bad people were taking, COVID when we were all locked down. And then I saw the blessing is like, hey man, I got to rebuild my relationship with my daughters. I got introduced to Zoom AA meetings, and now I got a sponsor that's on the other side of the country, and all these relationships. Yeah. The traces of gold,
Yeah. Absolutely.
But, wonder like, I don't know, it's going back to the old ways. Like behind the green screen here, I got like stacks of books. I got like bookshelves and lots of books I haven't even read yet, but hey, I'll have something to do by candlelight when that does come along,
Yeah. I remember seeing a podcast several years ago. I can't remember whose it was, but Maynard James Keenan was on it. And they were talking about society and like how it was going down the wrong direction, everything. And he just kept saying, yeah, man, it's time for that meteor. We just need that meteor, which we don't really want that, but it's like, that's kind of what we're talking about. It's like, can we figure out a way to like reset on some of these things? Have you been seeing all these videos of the like college student commencements where somebody from this year, where somebody in faculty is saying, just in a year's time, AI has taken over, all these things, and it's gonna be infused into everything that we do, and your jobs are gonna change. It's gonna be AI, and all these students just boo, just like boo, boo, like all across the country. Almost, it's like this is not the world that people want to live in.
Well, they spent all that money too and all that work to get a degree that's going to be, a robot's going to take over. It's like we got to bring back trades.
That's true in a lot of cases, I think too. I think that like for example, like computer programmers and people that build websites and all that, that's been like a high opportunity area for like 20 years. And for as long as I can remember, they told all the kids like it's like a safe bet to get into like computer technology. It's like pick something in computers and you find an entry-level job out of college. Well, now it's like, those are the first jobs that are in jeopardy because the AI might not be able to do everything. It might not be able to do something that somebody with 25 years experience can do, but it can probably do something that a kid with no experience can do. So now, what are like you said, like what are those kids going to do?
Yeah, exactly.
They were sold a promise, and the world is like,
And you still got to pay that college loan off,
yeah,
regardless if you got a job waiting for
which
you.
is way too expensive
Yeah.
in the United States. Just absolutely to the point where it's like the rationale isn't even hardly there. Because you're going to rack up tens, if not over $100,000. It depends on like a number of factors, but we're talking lots and lots of money for these kids to like go to college. Whereas in like Europe, you can like you can attend a 4-year program for sometimes as low as like $5,000 total out of pocket, depending on the country. And it's like, well, what's the deal here to where we're able to convince people that it's okay to be charging this much? How is that okay? Especially without the promise of a job afterward. And even if you do get a job, you're not really protected in a lot of ways that you probably should be. Like they can just fire you for any reason. It's like you might not get benefits. If you're a woman, you don't have a right to a maternity leave. Like there's all kinds of bullshit happening in this country. Not that there's not bullshit in other places, but like this is our country, and if there was a way for us to do something to fix it, it'd be cool if we could do that. I don't know what the answer is, but there's a lot of shit to be frustrated about, I think.
I mean, it's definitely reaching a boiling point here. And if we don't take action in some capacity, it's like we're allowing them to build our digital prisons around us where we're not going to have, any kind of say. Things are being normalized in this country that shouldn't be normalized right now.
Yeah.
And they got people so divided that they're cheering for their captors,
Yeah, man, totally. Yeah. I mean, could not have said it better. Cheering for the captors.
Yeah.
And it's hard to even see, it's like, who is the man? That's why I think that's one of the things that makes it really challenging, because there's no clear enemy. It's like a really obfuscated system. It's like hidden. Like, you know what I mean? So
the hidden hand. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think it's clear. I don't know what the answer is. I do know that people should be able to afford healthcare. They should be able to afford to go to school. All of these things that are too expensive that people get bankrupted by, they shouldn't. There's no reason that like the most wealthy country on earth should also have like more, people in debt and more homeless people and more people that can't afford healthcare than any other first world country. Doesn't make any sense.
I bet after your battle with thyroid cancer, when that, oh, hey, great job, you beat it, you got a new lease on life, but here's the bill you owe us.
Yeah,
I can't imagine what that was like.
As part of that, I haven't really shared this with people outside of my that was very costly, right? Having cancer is very expensive. But like as part of that, I had to do some radiation. Took one pill, tiny little pill, that was supposed to clear out the rest of the thyroid cells that might be, get infected with cancer. It's called radioactive iodine therapy. You take a radioactive iodine pill because the thyroid cells absorb iodine, and then since it's irradiated, it kills them. That pill costs like over $20,000. Just one pill. And I mean, I asked the woman, I was like, well, what if I throw up? She was like, don't throw up. You gotta again. You do it again.
You're gonna be like a dog returning to your vomit to eat that $20,000 pill down.
Yeah, I almost did. It's poison. You're basically taking poison. It made me feel awful. But thankfully, all that, made it to the other side. And but it just doesn't make sense to me that we can't figure out a way for people to be able to afford healthcare, especially.
Well, you definitely have a lot of material to write for, the next album for sure, with all that. Now, speaking of which, because I don't want Shauna to get upset if we aren't covering the music, but is there an album coming soon?
Yes. So the album will come out in the fall, but right now we're releasing singles pretty frequently. We just, like you said, we released Break the Machine, which will be featured on the album. The next one is called Waiting, and it comes out June 12th.
Okay.
And then the album is called Blue Rising. So you might earlier in our conversation we
Yeah,
talked
tribute
about
to your original band, huh?
that's exactly
Nice.
right. Yeah, and it's also kind of a follow up to Fade to Blue, which was our first Bastion Rose EP. So I kind of imagine it like that.
Nice shout out back to your previous
Yeah.
work though too. You know, I don't know if you ever when you were with that band, if you ever put out albums, but you know, another way to see the name out there.
All independent though. So that was one of the big inspirations for wanting to work with David Bottrell. Like, what would it be like to work with like a real producer? And it was very cool, very enlightening. He's a really good producer, really smart guy. We have learned a ton from working with him.
Now going back to, I mean, things that are really affecting the country right now, is there talk of touring to support this album? Or, you know, like most artists right now, it's just like, it's not feasible because of fuel prices alone.
Yeah, great. That's a really good question. And you're definitely not the first person to ask me that over the last, few years. But we, for a lot of reasons, we're a writing and recording band primarily, and we play local quite frequently and regionally. And we're pretty popular in our in Indiana, basically, and in kind of like the Midwest in a radius around where we're from. And we have like a growing online following all over the world. Like I can look at, a map of the world and see where everybody's listening. And, that's like all doing really well. And I get messages all the time from people, and it's like, oh, come to Norway. Oh, come to Amsterdam, come to Madrid, come to, Rome. I get these literally every day, and then also stateside every day. Like come to Anaheim, come to New York, it doesn't, it never really stops. But like, how do you translate that into a tour? It's like, I got a guy saying, come to Minneapolis. I got a guy saying, come to Buffalo. It's like,
and is that guy going to show up? Yeah,
right. And I just don't know that. And I don't know anybody at venues. I don't know anybody that knows how to book shows. I certainly don't feel like capable of doing it myself. It's like, I'm pretty good at, and we have a good team behind us, like you mentioned, Shauna. It's like we got PR, and we've got videographer and people that, we have a bunch of music videos that are like pro on our YouTube, and we have like a really good team of people helping us do cool stuff, but we do not have anybody helping us book shows. So like something's got to give somewhere. I would certainly rather like continue to become like a better songwriter, be inspired and write new music and stuff, and go back into the studio with David and just keep the ball moving forward in terms of just make the music and get the music out to the people, then go out and play shows and like focus all my energy on trying to get shows. Now, if I could get some kind of team together to help with that piece of it, both logistically and like opening up doors at venues that are the right size, because I have no doubt we could go, play in, 100-seater rooms just about in, any of the main cities and probably do pretty well, like hopefully sell out. Or maybe bigger than that. I have no idea. I get out of my depth now. So it's like figuring out how to do shows in other states, and certainly looking for partnerships there and eager to figure something out. But I personally don't know anybody in that space.
Well, I'm in the Cleveland area, and so that could be an affordable trip for you guys to bring the show out here. And I'm friends with a lot of the venue owners and stuff like that. So I could do my part for you here. And pass it along.
Man. That's a big rock city.
Yeah. You guys come check out the Rock Hall and all that good stuff right here too. But before we get ready and wrap up, Austin, I want to ask you a couple questions that I normally ask my guests that I have on here. You talked about like some of the music that was like your earliest influences into this world, but who are the top 3 artists that you're listening to today?
Let's see. Looking at my Spotify right now.
Make sure it's not AI. Not just kidding.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I've actually been really digging Alice in Chains lately. Not that they're new or anything, but like I keep listening to that song Nutshell. Like
Yeah.
all the time. I just love the melancholy of that and just
Mhm.
the sadness and the vibe of that. So that's like one of the recent ones I was listening to. A lot of people, it's like a pretty controversial group. But I've listened to quite a bit of Sleep Token lately. I tend to really enjoy that band. And I know that there's a lot of people like, oh, they're not metal or oh, this is whatever. You know, there's very controversial. But I just tend not to care what genre it is. I could understand why you might say it's not metal. It's certainly feels pretty fresh to me though. Like I don't know of another band that sounds quite like that. You know, it's like they've got a song on their most recent record that did so well called Emergence that is, you know, this long, cool thing with lots of movements and it's really rhythmic vocals. And then there's a saxophone solo at the end. It's like, what is going on here? It's just like, there's just like kind of like these random little things they do that keep things kind of weird and interesting. And I really dig that. Another one, I've been listening to like Gojira, like really heavy, you know, progressive stuff. I'm kind of like getting back into Pantera. Black Label Society just put out a really awesome new record. It's really, I don't know if you had a chance to listen to it yet, but it's like doesn't have a single song on it that's not good. Which I kind of think Zakk Wylde can do no wrong. Honestly, people know him as being just like an incredible guitar player, but I kind of think every song he's ever written is just a banger. Like he's just a great songwriter too.
Yeah.
And he'll sprinkle in like some wild Zakk Wylde shred-tastic solo, but you could tell underlying all that flash, he's like a very stable, mature songwriter, you know, for real artist that gets what he's doing.
Yeah, definitely. And then this could be along the lines of, you know, kind of what we were talking about earlier on our soapbox, but what class do you feel should be mandatory for kids before graduating high school today?
I think that it would be good if there was a class that was about media literacy. And rhetoric. So like understanding the mechanics of an argument, because you hear a lot of like people on TV or on social media, politicians or whatnot, they'll make a claim and then they'll back it up with evidence, but it doesn't actually match. But that there's a skill involved in recognizing those discrepancies in an argument. And there's actually a whole discipline with understanding how to structure an argument. And they used to teach it before the Industrial Revolution. It was one of the like 3 main things they taught kids in schools. But when the Industrial Revolution came along, they taught everybody how to work in a factory. The whole entire school system that we still have today in the States is based on the system they put together to teach kids to work in factories. So we need to go back to what they taught them back, you know, it's like how like reading comprehension and like how to structure arguments and how to identify kind of like arguments that aren't valid and things like that. Because in today's day and age, there's so much flash. You can just say something in a certain way that seems convincing, and that's good enough. You convinced you convinced a lot of people just as you said it in a certain confident way.
Yeah, exactly. The way your hands were motioned and, you know, the confidence in your demeanor.
Yep, absolutely.
You know? And you got a nice tie on, whatever.
Yep, all that. Yeah, just like teach kids how to see right through all that, like that veneer straight to the words. Like, okay, he said this, and then he backed it up with this, and that doesn't actually match. It doesn't actually make any sense. Because I don't think that there's, as far as I know, I don't remember anything being done when I was going to school to help with that. I was fortunate enough to go I went to college and was taught some stuff about media literacy. I had no idea big corporations owned the media until I was taught that in college. They didn't teach us that in high school.
Mm-hmm.
That there's like a handful of corporations that own all of the news networks and media companies. Had no
and then
idea.
they keep merging and it becomes less and less. It's like one big entity.
Yeah.
You know?
People don't even realize there's like one or two big kind of like almost monopolies running the show on the media. And it's kind of important information, you know, to understand that there's people with agendas that are underlying the messaging that you're hearing, and they're pouring millions of dollars into it to get you to believe something.
Yep. And then who are 3 people who've inspired you and you can credit for making you the person you are today?
I mean, I have to say my dad. Definitely have to say my dad, because he taught me so much about just being a man, and of course about music. Another person would probably be it's gonna have to be my wife. You know, she's like stuck with me since we were in high school. We've been together since we were 16 years old. So she was with me through the cancer, through, you know, losing my parents and all of that, and has definitely helped me to be a better person. And then I would say broadly, not instead of a person, I would just say like all of the people who have encouraged me through the years, both as fans and other musicians. So like band members that I have shared the stage with and written with, you know, and then people that have become fans of the music and of the groups that I've been in, that have encouraged me along the way and like kind of shown me that you really can find your you have to be persistent. You know, you have to, it's not like, you know, I just immediately started writing songs people like. I wrote a bunch of horrible songs when I was a kid, and then eventually started to kind of get it. And people like, yeah, they learn the lyrics, come to the shows. Life changing to have experiences like that as a budding songwriter. And I'm still so thankful every time we, you know, release something and it does really well, or play a show and there's a bunch of people there singing the words. It's just like what keeps me going on the music thing.
Awesome. And then any message you have for our military members currently serving overseas?
Yeah, I would just say thank you for your service, obviously, you know, and hang in there. It can't be easy. I've never served, but I certainly respect and value those who do.
Awesome. Austin, man, thank you so much for your time. It looks like we almost went that hour after all.
Yeah,
you know?
Good conversation.
Yeah, man, it was great talking with you. For any fans out there that are like new hearing about Bastion Rose or want to support you and check you guys out, or maybe even help bring you to their city to play, where would you send them?
Yeah, you just do the easy thing and Google Bastion Rose, or you can go to like anywhere you listen to music and we're there. You know, we're on every platform. YouTube is big for our music videos and stuff like that. We got a ton of music videos. You can go to bastionrose.com to see what's going on with us, and we're pretty active on Instagram and Facebook especially. So lots of options. So kind of pick your poison.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for your time. It was great talking with you.
Yeah, you too. Thanks, man.
All right. Listen up. Hold on to your seats. Grab your girls. Grab your beers.
Hey everybody, this is Charlie from Anthrax, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle.
This is Mark Metcalf, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle with Bailey on Domain Cleveland Radio.
You are listening to today's Boondoggle with Bailey on Domain Cleveland Radio. Yes, Kato Kalin listens to this all the time.
Welcome to today's Boondoggle. Now here's your host.
I am Monty Heath, so one Heath, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle.
Hey, what's up? It's John from Skillet, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle on Domain Cleveland Radio.
That's